Good day, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me to deliver this conclusion remarks. I think that both panel discussions were just perfect, beautiful, very inspirational, informative, and those that will make most of you go and make your further research. And this is the most of value to these discussions. What is interesting is that we are talking about oppressions in Africa by Africans and oppressions in Europe by Europeans. And we are sharing our experiences and trying to see similarities. And obviously, we are finding differences. We are not trying to see the applications from one situation to another. We want to see what didn't work, why still in the 21st century we have the neocolonial aspirations, the appetites for expansions through violation of international law. I think that during the discussions today we found certain issues where we are coinciding. What actually Putin didn't anticipate? He didn't anticipate that many things, but among them, that he put today Ukraine on the map of Africa, but also Africa on the map of Ukraine. And when I say Africa on the map of Ukraine, I will correct myself, the countries of Africa, because there was really a lack of that knowledge and experience due to different reasons. And today we are, due to Russian invasion, recognizing the importance of each other, but also we are seeing opportunities, because every war, every crisis has another side of the story, which unfortunately we were not able today to speak about. But when you will be leaving these premises, I would want you to come out with that feeling that there is something extra that we have to learn about each other. We might not agree on the terminology. We can say this is neocolonialism. Another ones would say, what do you know about colonialism? We would be speaking about genocide, and you would be saying, no, the genocide has completely different meaning. What I want to point out is that whatever we call it, if there is a violation of rules, norms of international law, democracy, if there is a violation of those values, the very same values that all of us were and have been fighting for, then whatever you call it, it is not right and it has to be addressed. The solutions for these differences can be very difficult. Values are the same. When you are analyzing any situation in the world, I want you to always remember, and I think David left. David, sorry. David, my son's name also David. That also gives some knowledge about my background. And my name is Lorato in your language. So with all my love and respect, I want to tell you that you have the most beautiful constitution in the world. In Ukraine, we are admiring this constitution. When you are analyzing that, every single situation in the world, I urge you to look at this constitution as at the mirror and to really evaluate each situation through those famous words that two wrongs don't make it right. We did see a lot unfair wars. We did make a lot of mistakes, but it doesn't justify Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russian terrorism today in my country, and its war of genocide. Every life matters. Every person matters. We are talking about values, the same values. I really don't ever want to hear from such a respective audience about racism when we are talking about, for example, situation that happened in Poland. Why we are not talking about racism of Russia in Ukraine when Russia started to bomb our cities? The very same students of yours were in Ukraine, 9,000 African students among different other nations in the world were there, and Russians deliberately were bombing them in my country. So I think we have to see the opportunities for ourselves, even through the lenses of Russian aggression in Ukraine. And how we can do it? We can improve international law. We can improve the international institutions. This is the opportunity for Ukraine to get rid of this complex of the smaller brother. And the opportunity for Africa, for each African country, to give its equal voice on the international arena, to get your equal representation in international organizations. And for your information, Ukraine was supporting and lobbying the place of African countries in United Nations Security Council for many years already. So this is something that definitely will give strong push to both African countries and Ukraine to improve those stereotypes and complexes that we inherited from our oppressives, how different and similar they can be. And I really congratulate you on this profound discussion and hope that it would become a series of discussions as we see the interest there and we are not coinciding in certain positions. That means that the further dialogue is needed. We appreciate the positions of every country in the world, including the position of South Africa, being non-aligned, because this is the very same that Ukrainians are fighting today for, to have a choice, to have a right to make our own choice in our internal and external policies. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much for your patience. We are just going to take 2 minutes to close this off. Just to advise that we want the panelists to take a group photograph after this, and then anyone else who wants to take with the panelists can also, take these pictures. I think that we've had very good interventions from the two ambassadors that are here. Thank you very much. Of course, we also heard from you in the panel. Look, the one take home I want us to do, especially on the part of our European colleagues, is the fact, is what Professor Moyai said about, the need to learn. And of course, my professor from the Czech Republic talked about the need for Europe to learn more about Africa. We learn about you. I've got a course, for example, where I teach my students about comparative politics, and we've looked at the Czech Republic, for instance. So we know that in 1930s you faced colonialism from Germany, right? And then in the 30s, and then in 1948 you were invaded by the Soviet Union. And then also again in 1968, invaded by the Soviet Union. And it makes some of us wonder, why would you pitch your tent? Because you face challenges from both West and the East. But somehow you prefer to trust the West in terms of your security than the East. But Václav Havel provides a very good answer, which you gave in terms of why that is the case. We know these things, but you know absolutely nothing about Africa, and you admitted it, and that's a very good, sober moment that I want, our colleagues from Europe to do. So tomorrow, for example, we are hosting the Deputy Prime Minister of Slovenia, and part of the discussions we're going to be having with her in the holding room is to talk about how we can help to introduce African studies courses in universities in Slovenia. That's the one point. And I think that that's an agenda that we want you to take back, to start thinking of African studies centers and have people from Africa who are resident in Africa teaching African politics and economics and history, to teach those courses. Thank God for COVID, we can actually do this online now. So we're not telling you that we need jobs in Europe. We're just telling you that we can sit here in Pretoria and help to teach students in Europe about colonialism in Africa, about the way we see the world, about our challenges, and the need for the world to band together and to start looking at humans as people, and stop the ontological bifurcation of beings into zones of beings and non-beings. Some are beings who have privileges and can enjoy the benefits of the international system, and the others, mostly Africans, Asians, and the rest, as non-beings who we can understand when they are fighting and killing themselves, and so we shouldn't talk about it. But then when the beings are fighting themselves somewhere in Ukraine or anywhere else, we must concern ourselves about it. These kinds of ontological divisions is what must stop. So when we talk about having a seat, equal seat in the United Nations Security Council, the question of racism is the big elephant in the room that many of us are shy to talk about. If we all see people, as the ambassador said, rather than resources, than entities, if we change our mindset about how we view humans, and all humans, all lives are important, then we can sit in the Security Council and ask the simple question of why 1.4 billion people are not represented in the United Nations Security Council. Why is that? What is really the problem? Because in 1947, China was not a great power, was not an economic power, but was accepted into the United Nations Security Council on account of its population and to ensure representativity. So if that was given in 1947, what has changed? Why can't Africa? And we're not begging, we don't have to even beg for it. It's something that we need partners like you in Europe who are part of the Global South. I'm not saying everyone is part of the Global South, but anyone who identifies with the struggles of the Global South can identify this as a simple question of representativity to ensure that we have a much more equitable world. And maybe we should also talk about the question of the veto. Which countries qualify to have the veto, and why? Why? What is the basis of that? These kinds of inequality will not solve the wicked challenges of the world. So the earlier we start thinking of these common problems and how they affect all of us, and finding solutions through opportunities like this, and I assure you we're going to have more of these engagements across geographies, the better for all of us. So let me stop talking and let's start eating. Thank you very much for coming once again, and I would use this opportunity to declare this conference as closed and to thank you once again, and ask again that our panelists line up here so that we can take a group photo, and then after that you can all join in. Thank you very much.